The scream of the wind had finally died down to a whisper when Ryder Dalton heard the soft breathing beneath his porch. A sound so faint he almost mistook it for the settling of the wooden boards in the cool October dawn of 1878. He had been awake for an hour already, pulling on his worn leather boots and suspenders, preparing for another day of checking fences and tending to the small herd of cattle that grazed on his modest ranch outside Hachita, New Mexico. The sun had barely begun to paint the desert sky with streaks of orange and pink when he stepped outside, coffee mug in hand, and froze at the sound of that breathing, rhythmic and exhausted, coming from the shadowed space beneath his front porch. Ryder set down his mug carefully on the weathered railing and crouched low, peering into the darkness beneath the wooden slats. At first, he saw nothing but shadows and the disturbed dirt where something had clearly burrowed in for shelter. Then his eyes adjusted, and he saw her. A woman, curled into herself like a wounded animal, her dark hair matted with dust and what looked like dried blood, her dress torn and stained beyond recognition of its original color. She was sleeping so deeply that even his presence, his shadow falling across her face as he moved closer, did not wake her. For a moment, Ryder simply stared, his mind racing through possibilities. A runaway, someone fleeing violence, a woman in trouble, that much was certain. His ranch sat 3 miles from the small town of Hachita, far enough that neighbors were scarce and help even scarcer. The desert could be unforgiving, and the fact that this woman had made it to his property at all spoke of either desperation or remarkable determination. He reached down slowly, carefully, and touched her shoulder. She jerked awake instantly, scrambling backward with such force that she hit her head on the underside of the porch with a dull thud. Her eyes, wide and wild with terror, locked onto his face as she pressed herself as far back as the cramped space would allow. "Easy now," Ryder said, keeping his voice low and steady, the same tone he used with spooked horses. "I am not going to hurt you. This is my property, my porch you are sleeping under. Are you injured?" The woman stared at him for a long moment, her chest heaving with rapid breaths, clearly weighing whether to trust him or bolt. She looked to be in her early 20s, with sharp features softened by exhaustion and fear. Her hands, he noticed, were scraped raw, and there was a deep gash along her left forearm that had bled through a makeshift bandage of torn cloth. "I will leave," she finally said, her voice hoarse and cracking. She started to crawl forward, wincing with every movement. "I did not mean to trespass. I just needed somewhere to rest for a few hours. I will leave right now." "Hold on," Ryder said, raising a hand. "You are hurt. When did you last eat? Drink water." She paused, halfway out from under the porch, squinting up at him in the growing morning light. Suspicion radiated from every line of her body. "2 days ago, maybe 3. I lost track. But that is not your concern. I will be on my way." "Where exactly are you planning to go?" Ryder asked, gesturing to the vast expanse of desert stretching out in every direction. "The nearest town besides Hachita is 20 miles east. You will not make it half that distance in your condition." "I have made it this far," she said, but there was no conviction in her words. She pulled herself fully out from under the porch and tried to stand, only to sway dangerously. Ryder caught her elbow, steadying her, and felt how thin she was beneath the layers of torn fabric. She pulled away from him immediately, but the damage was done. He had seen the truth written in every angle of her body. This woman was running on empty. "Look," he said, stepping back to give her space. "I am not asking you to tell me your life story, but I have food, clean water, and medical supplies inside. Let me at least tend to that arm and give you a proper meal before you decide where you are headed next. It is the decent thing to do." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for signs of deception or ulterior motive. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her to some degree because she gave a small, hesitant nod. "Just a meal, and then I leave." "Fair enough," Ryder said. He picked up his abandoned coffee mug and gestured toward the door. "Come on inside." The interior of his cabin was simple but clean. A single large room that served as kitchen, dining area, and living space, with a separate bedroom off to one side. He guided her to a chair at the wooden table and set about preparing food while she sat stiffly, her eyes tracking his every movement. He could feel her tension from across the room, the way she positioned herself with a clear view of the door, ready to run at the first sign of danger. Ryder worked quietly, frying eggs and bacon, slicing bread he had baked 2 days prior, pouring fresh water from the pitcher. When he set the plate in front of her, she stared at it like she could not quite believe it was real. Then, as if a dam had broken, she fell on the food with single-minded intensity, barely pausing to breathe between bites. He let her eat in peace, busying himself with preparing his own breakfast and refilling her water glass when it emptied. Only when she had finished, when she leaned back in the chair with something approaching relief on her face, did he speak again. "My name is Ryder Dalton. I have owned this ranch for 3 years now, run cattle mostly, some horses. It is just me out here." She studied him warily. "Olivia Ross." "And I appreciate the food, Mr. Dalton, but I should be going now." "Your arm," he said, nodding to the blood-stained bandage. "Let me at least clean and wrap that properly. Infection out here can kill you just as surely as thirst." Olivia hesitated, then slowly extended her arm across the table. Ryder retrieved his medical kit from the shelf and set to work carefully unwrapping the soiled cloth. The gash beneath was deep, running from her elbow nearly to her wrist, clearly made by something sharp. He cleaned it gently with whiskey, feeling her flinch but not pull away, then applied a salve and wrapped it with clean bandages. "How did this happen?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. "Does it matter?" Her voice was flat, empty of emotion. "No, I suppose it does not." He finished tying off the bandage and sat back. "But someone is looking for you, that much is obvious." She pulled her arm back, cradling it against her chest. "No one is looking for me. I am nobody worth looking for." "I doubt that is true." "You do not know anything about me, Mr. Dalton." "You are right, I do not. And if you want to keep it that way, that is your choice." He stood and began clearing the dishes. "But here is what I do know. It is October and the desert nights are getting cold. You are injured, exhausted, and alone. Whatever you are running from, whatever trouble is behind you, you will not survive long out there in your condition. I have survived this long. Barely." He turned to face her. "Stay, at least for a few days, until you have healed up and regained your strength. I have a spare room, such as it is. You can rest, eat properly, and then make your decision about where to go next with a clear head." Olivia stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the wooden floor. "Why would you do that? You do not know me. I could be a criminal. I could be dangerous." "Could be," Ryder acknowledged, "but I do not think so. I think you are someone who has been through something terrible and needs help, and I am offering it, no strings attached." She shook her head slowly. "Men do not offer help without expecting something in return. This one does." He met her gaze steadily. "I am not asking you to trust me. Trust is earned. I am just asking you not to walk back out into that desert and die when there is another option." The silence stretched between them, heavy with tension and unspoken fears. Olivia looked toward the door, then back at Ryder, then down at her bandaged arm. He could see the war playing out across her features, pride and pragmatism battling for dominance. "A few days," she finally said, the words barely above a whisper. "Just until I heal, then I leave." "A few days," Ryder agreed, The spare room is through there. He pointed to a small door off the main room. It is not much, but the bed is clean and the door has a lock on the inside. You can rest as long as you need. Olivia nodded stiffly and moved toward the room, her steps unsteady. She paused in the doorway and looked back at him. "Thank you, Mr. Dalton." "Ryder," he said. "Just Ryder." She disappeared into the room, and a moment later he heard the soft click of the lock engaging. He did not blame her for that. Trust was indeed earned, and he was a stranger, however kind his intentions might be. He finished cleaning up from breakfast and headed outside to begin his day's work, but his mind kept circling back to the woman now sleeping in his spare room. What had happened to Olivia Ross? Who had hurt her badly enough that she would rather sleep under a stranger's porch in the desert than seek help in town? And why did he feel such a strong pull to protect her, this woman he had only just met? The day passed slowly. Ryder worked through his usual chores, mending a section of fence that had come loose, checking on the cattle, grooming his horse. Every hour or so, he found himself glancing back toward the cabin, half expecting to see Olivia emerging, announcing she was leaving after all. But the door remained closed, and no sound came from within. It was late afternoon when he returned to the cabin to find her awake, standing in the main room looking uncertain and out of place. She had washed her face and hands, he noticed, and attempted to tame her hair into some semblance of order. The result only made her look younger and more vulnerable. "There is a wash basin and soap in the corner there," Ryder said, gesturing. "And if you want to clean up properly, there is a bathing room attached to the back of the cabin. Nothing fancy, but it has a tub and I can heat water if you like." Olivia looked at him with something that might have been gratitude. "That would be welcome. Thank you." He spent the next hour hauling and heating water, setting it up for her while she waited awkwardly in the main room. When everything was ready, he showed her to the small bathing room and left her in privacy, returning to his work of preparing dinner. He made venison stew, thick with vegetables from the garden he maintained behind the cabin and fresh biscuits. The smell filled the cabin, warm and homely. When Olivia emerged nearly an hour later, she looked transformed. Her hair, now clean, fell in dark waves past her shoulders, and without the layers of dust and grime, he could see she was striking rather than merely pretty. She had done her best to wash her dress as well, though the stains and tears remained. She caught him looking, and her expression shuddered closed again. "I do not have anything else to wear," she said defensively. "I was not judging," Ryder said quickly. "I was just thinking I might have something that could work with some alterations. My mother left some things here before she passed. She was about your size. The clothes are packed away, but you are welcome to them if you like." Olivia blinked, clearly surprised. "Your mother lived here, for a time, yes, after my father died. She passed 2 years ago from fever." He stirred the stew, not looking at her. "Anyway, the clothes are just sitting in a trunk gathering dust. Seems a waste." "I would appreciate that, thank you." They ate dinner in relative silence, though it was less strained than breakfast had been. Olivia seemed more alert now, less like a cornered animal ready to bolt. She even asked a few questions about the ranch, the cattle, how long he had been in New Mexico. Safe topics, nothing personal. Ryder answered easily, keeping his own questions to himself. She would talk when she was ready, or she would not. Either way, it was her choice. After dinner, he retrieved the trunk from the back of his closet and set it in the main room. Olivia opened it carefully, almost reverently, and began sorting through the contents. There were several dresses, a few blouses and skirts, a warm shawl, and even a coat. All practical garments, well made but simple, the clothes of a frontier woman. "These are beautiful," Olivia said softly, running her hand over a blue calico dress. "Are you certain you want to part with them?" They were meant to be worn, not locked away, Ryder said. Take whatever you need. She selected a few items, holding them up to check the fit, and though they would need some minor adjustments, they would do. For the first time since he had found her that morning, Olivia smiled. It was small and fleeting, but it changed her entire face, softening the hard edges that fear and exhaustion had carved there. I will repay you for all of this, she said, somehow, when I am able. There is no debt, Ryder replied. But if it makes you feel better, you are welcome to help around here while you are recovering. Lord knows there is always work to be done on a ranch. I can do that. She gathered the clothes to her chest. I am good with sewing, cooking, cleaning, and I know how to handle horses and cattle. I grew up on a ranch, did you now? That was the first personal detail she had volunteered. Where, she hesitated, and he could see her weighing how much to reveal. East of here, near the Texas border, my father raised horses. Raised, he is dead now. My whole family is dead. The words were flat, emotionless, but Ryder heard the pain beneath them. It was just me and my brother for a while, and then it was just me. I am sorry, Ryder said, and meant it. Olivia nodded once sharply and retreated to her room with the clothes, ending the conversation. Ryder let her go, sensing she had revealed all she could manage for one day. He settled into his own evening routine, reading by lamplight until his eyes grew heavy, then retiring to his own room. He lay awake for a long time, listening to the night sounds of the desert and wondering about the woman sleeping on the other side of the wall. What had happened to her family? How had she ended up alone, injured and desperate? And why did some part of him already dread the day when she would leave, when the cabin would return to its usual lonely silence? The days that followed fell into an unexpected rhythm. Olivia proved true to her word about helping around the ranch. Despite her injury, she threw herself into work with determined intensity, as if staying busy kept darker thoughts at bay. She mended his worn shirts with neat, precise stitches. She cooked meals that were far better than his simple fare had ever been. She even helped with the livestock, demonstrating a comfortable familiarity with both horses and cattle that spoke of real experience. Ryder found himself looking forward to returning to the cabin each evening, to the warm glow of lamplight in the windows and the smell of dinner cooking. They talked more easily now, though Olivia still kept much of herself hidden. She asked him about his life, his decision to come to New Mexico, his plans for the ranch. He told her about growing up in Kansas, about losing his father in the war and his mother to illness, about wanting to build something of his own in this hard land. She listened intently, sometimes offering observations or questions that revealed a sharp intelligence. But when he tried to turn the conversation to her past, she deflected skillfully, changing the subject or simply falling silent until he let it drop. Whatever secrets she carried, she was not ready to share them. 2 weeks passed this way. Olivia's arm healed cleanly, the gash closing into a pink scar that would likely fade with time. The hollows in her cheeks filled out as regular meals restored her strength. She smiled more often now, usually at something one of the ranch animals did, and Ryder found himself doing foolish things just to coax those smiles from her. He was falling for her. The realization hit him one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and crimson. She was telling him about a horse she had trained as a girl, her face animated in a way he rarely saw, and he thought, I could listen to her talk forever. I could sit here beside her every evening for the rest of my life and never tire of it. The thought terrified him. She had been clear from the beginning that she was only staying until she healed. She had a destination in mind, somewhere she needed to go, even if she had never specified where. And he had no right to ask her to change those plans, no claim on her heart or her future. He was simply the man who had offered her shelter when she needed it most. Nothing more. But that did not stop him from hoping. It was a Saturday evening in late October when everything changed. They had finished dinner and were cleaning up together, moving around the kitchen in comfortable synchronization, when they heard the sound of horses approaching. Multiple horses moving fast. Olivia froze, her face going pale. The plate she was holding slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor, but she did not seem to notice. Her eyes were fixed on the door, wide with terror. "Olivia." Ryder reached for her, but she backed away. "They found me," she whispered. "I have to run, I have to go now." "Who found you?" "What is going on?" Before she could answer, a rough voice called out from beyond the door. "Olivia Ross, we know you are in there. Come out now and nobody gets hurt." Ryder moved to the window and peered out carefully. 4 men sat on horses in his yard, all armed, all looking dangerous. The one who had spoken was a big man with a scar running down the left side of his face, his hand resting casually on the pistol at his hip. "Please," Olivia said behind him, her voice breaking. "Please do not let them take me. They will kill me." Ryder turned to her. "Who are they?" "My brother's partners. They blame me for his death. They think I stole money that belonged to them." Her words tumbled over each other in her haste to explain. "But I did not. My brother died trying to protect me from them, and they have been hunting me ever since. Please, Ryder, please help me." He did not hesitate. "Go to the bedroom. Lock the door and do not come out no matter what you hear." "What are you going to do?" "Something probably stupid." He checked his rifle, making sure it was loaded, and moved toward the door. "Now go." Olivia ran for the bedroom, and he waited until he heard the lock click before opening the front door and stepping out onto the porch. The 4 men turned their attention to him immediately. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Ryder kept his voice level, his rifle held loosely but ready. "We are looking for a woman," Scarface said. "Olivia Ross, we have business with her." "What kind of business?" "The kind that is none of yours. We tracked her here 3 days ago. We know she is inside. Send her out and we will leave you in peace." "There is no woman here," Ryder said. "You have the wrong place." One of the other men, a thin weasel of a fellow, spat into the dirt. "We saw her through the window, you lying bastard. Saw her clear as day. Now you can hand her over easy or we can come in and take her. Your choice." "My ranch, my rules," Ryder said. "And I say you are trespassing. Turn those horses around and ride out while you still can." Scarface laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "You got some nerve, I will give you that, but there are 4 of us and 1 of you. You really want to die over some woman you barely know? I know enough." Ryder raised the rifle slightly, not quite pointing it at anyone but making his intentions clear. "And I know I do not take kindly to strangers threatening people under my protection. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to turn around and leave. Now." The tension ratcheted up instantly. The 4 men shifted in their saddles, hands moving toward weapons. Ryder's finger tightened on the trigger, his heart pounding but his hand steady. This was it. Either they would back down or blood would be spilled. "Easy now," a new voice called from behind the riders. Everyone turned to see an older man approaching on horseback, a sheriff's star glinting on his chest. "What seems to be the problem here?" Ryder felt a rush of relief. Sheriff Tom Brennan was a good man, fair and honest, one of the few truly decent lawmen Ryder had met in the territory. He had come out to the ranch a few times on official business, and they had developed a cordial relationship. "Sheriff," Ryder called. "These men are trespassing on my property and making threats." "That right." Brennan guided his horse forward, his hand resting on his own weapon. "You boys got some explanation for this?" Scarface's expression soured. "We are looking for a fugitive, woman by the name of Olivia Ross." She is wanted for theft, and we have reason to believe she is hiding here." "That's so. You got a warrant." "We do not need a warrant. She robbed us. We are just taking back what is ours." "That is not how the law works, friend." Brennan's voice was mild but carried an edge of steel. "You make an accusation like that, you file a complaint with my office. You do not go riding around threatening law-abiding citizens." "Law-abiding," the weasel-faced man sneered. "He is harboring a criminal. I am harboring a guest," Ryder corrected. "A woman who asked for help and got it." "That is not a crime." "Is this woman on your property, Mr. Dalton?" Brennan asked. Ryder met his eyes. "There is a woman here, yes. She has been recovering from injuries. She has not committed any crime that I am aware of." "Then I would like to speak with her if that is all right with you." "She is afraid of these men, Sheriff. They have been hunting her." "I understand, but I need to hear her side of things." Brennan turned to the four riders. "You men are going to stay right there. You move so much as an inch toward that cabin, I will arrest the lot of you for attempted assault." "We clear." Scarface looked like he wanted to argue but thought better of it. He gave a curt nod. Ryder lowered his rifle and led the sheriff inside. Olivia emerged from the bedroom when he called to her, her face tear-streaked but determined. She looked at Brennan with apprehension but stood straight, chin raised. "Miss Ross," Brennan said gently. "My name is Sheriff Tom Brennan. I need to ask you a few questions. Those men outside claim you stole from them. Is that true?" "No, sir." Olivia's voice shook slightly but held firm. "They are lying." "Then tell me what happened. Take your time." Olivia drew a deep breath. "My brother, Owen, he got mixed up with those men about 6 months ago. They ran a smuggling operation, bringing stolen cattle and horses across the border to sell. Owen thought it would be easy money, but once he got involved, they would not let him leave. He wanted out, wanted to go straight, but they threatened him. Threatened me." "Go on," Brennan encouraged. "One night, Owen told me we needed to run. He had taken some money they owed him for his work, said it was his share and he was entitled to it. We left in the middle of the night, but they tracked us. There was a fight. Owen held them off so I could escape, but he died doing it, shot in the back while he was trying to protect me." Her voice broke on the last word, and Ryder moved instinctively to her side, offering silent support. She gave him a grateful glance before continuing. "I have been running ever since. They think I have the money Owen took, but I do not. I do not know what he did with it. Maybe he hid it, maybe he lost it, I do not know. But they will not believe me. They want someone to pay for their loss, and I am the only one left." Brennan listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "These men have any proof of their claims, any documentation of this money they say was stolen?" "Of course not," Olivia said bitterly. "It was illegal money from illegal activities. They cannot go to the law without incriminating themselves, so instead they hunt me like an animal." The sheriff nodded slowly. "That tracks with what I know about those fellows. They have been on my radar for a while, but proving anything has been difficult. Tell me, Miss Ross, are you willing to testify about what you know, about your brother's involvement and what happened to him?" Olivia looked startled. "Testify in court?" "Yes, madam." "If what you are telling me is true, and I believe it is, then those men out there are guilty of murder among other crimes. Your testimony could help put them away for a long time. They will kill me before they let that happen. Not if they are already in custody." Brennan smiled grimly. "Let me handle this. You stay here, stay safe, and let the law do its job for once." Ryder spoke up. "You can arrest them, right now. I have been building a case against their operation for months. Miss Ross's testimony gives me probable cause to bring them in for questioning. Might not stick permanently, but it will get them off the streets long enough to gather more evidence." He tipped his hat to Olivia. "You just gave me the break I have been waiting for, madam. Thank you." He returned outside, and through the window, Ryder and Olivia watched as Brennan spoke to the four men. Whatever he said did not sit well with them. Scarface looked ready to draw his weapon, but Brennan was faster, his gun out and aimed before anyone could react. After a tense moment, the men dismounted and allowed themselves to be disarmed. Brennan tied their hands and mounted his horse, leading the prisoners back toward town on foot. When they were gone, Olivia collapsed into a chair, trembling violently. Ryder knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "It is over," he said softly. "You are safe now." "For how long?" She looked at him with haunted eyes. "Even if the sheriff arrests them, there are others. The organization they work for is big. Someone else will come. Then we will deal with them too. But Olivia, you cannot keep running forever. At some point you have to make a stand. You have to let people help you." "Why?" The question came out as a whisper. "Why would you help me? Why would you risk your life for someone you barely know?" Ryder opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again, searching for the right words. How could he explain what he barely understood himself? That in the 2 weeks she had been here, she had become essential to him. That the cabin felt like a home now rather than just a place to sleep. That he had started imagining a future with her in it, not as a guest, but as something far more. "Because," he finally said, "you are not just someone I barely know. Not anymore. Because when I found you under my porch, something in me recognized something in you. I do not know how else to explain it. I just know that I do not want you to leave. I want you to stay. Not for a few days or a few weeks. I want you to stay forever." Olivia stared at him, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Ryder, you do not understand what you are saying. I am trouble. I bring danger with me everywhere I go. Then we will face it together. I have nothing to offer you. No money, no prospects, nothing but problems and a past I cannot escape." "You have yourself," Ryder said. "That is everything I want." She shook her head, but he could see the longing in her eyes, the desperate hope warring with fear. "I cannot ask you to tie your life to mine. It is not fair to you. I am not asking you to ask. I am telling you what I want." He squeezed her hands gently. "I am in love with you, Olivia Ross. I think I have been since the moment I saw you curled up under my porch, so fierce and fragile at the same time. Stay, please. Let me stand beside you. Let me help you build a life here, a real life, safe and happy. Say yes." "Ryder." His name was a sob on her lips. "I love you too. I have tried so hard not to, tried to keep my distance, but I cannot help it. When I am with you, I feel safe for the first time in months. I feel like maybe, just maybe, I could have a normal life again, but I am so afraid. Fear is natural, but you are stronger than your fear. You have already proven that by surviving this long." He reached up and cupped her face in his hands, wiping away tears with his thumbs. "Stay with me. Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to. Because we are better together than apart. Please, Olivia, stay forever." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his eyes, and he let her see everything he felt, holding nothing back. Whatever she found there must have satisfied her, because she leaned forward and kissed him, soft and tentative at first, then with growing certainty. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Yes, I will stay. I want to stay. Forever." Ryder pulled her close, holding her as if he could shield her from the entire world through sheer force of will. She clung to him just as tightly, and they stayed that way for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, two broken pieces finding completion in each other. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Sheriff Brennan proved true to his word, building a solid case against the smuggling ring based on Olivia's testimony and his own investigation. The trial was set for January, and in the meantime, the four men who had come to Ryder's ranch sat in jail awaiting their fate. Olivia's testimony would be crucial, but Brennan assured them he had enough evidence that even if something went wrong, the case would not collapse. With that threat temporarily neutralized, life at the ranch settled into something approaching normalcy. Ryder and Olivia worked side by side each day, tending to the cattle and horses, maintaining the property, preparing for the winter ahead. In the evenings, they sat together by the fire, talking and planning and simply enjoying each other's presence. Ryder courted her properly, despite the fact that they already lived under the same roof. He brought her wildflowers from the desert. He fixed up an old rocking chair that had belonged to his mother and placed it on the porch for her to use. He taught her to shoot, spending patient hours helping her master the rifle until she could hit a target at 50 yards. She, in turn, showed him new recipes, mended every torn piece of clothing he owned, and filled the cabin with small touches that made it feel warm and lived in. They did not rush into anything physical beyond kissing and holding hands, both of them wanting to do things right. Ryder made his intentions clear by speaking with Father Domingo from the small Catholic church in Hachita. The elderly priest agreed to marry them, but insisted on a proper courtship period first, saying that love born from crisis needed time to prove itself in calmer waters. Ryder did not argue. He understood the wisdom in waiting, in making sure that what they felt was not just the result of heightened circumstances. But every day that passed only confirmed what he already knew. Olivia was his match in every way that mattered. She was strong and capable, yet tender in unexpected moments. She challenged him when he grew complacent, supported him when he doubted, made him laugh when he took himself too seriously. And she loved the land and the life they were building with the same fierce devotion he felt. Christmas came, and they celebrated quietly with a simple meal and small gifts. Ryder gave Olivia a silver locket he had purchased in town, and she gave him a new shirt she had sewn by hand, every stitch perfect. They attended midnight mass at Father Domingo's church, standing close together in the candlelight, and when the priest blessed the congregation, Ryder felt a peace settle over him that he had not known since before his parents died. The trial took place in early January, held in the territorial courthouse in Las Cruces. Ryder accompanied Olivia, refusing to let her face it alone. She testified clearly and bravely, detailing everything she knew about the smuggling operation and her brother's death. The defense attorney tried to shake her story, implying she had been complicit in the crimes, but she held firm, never wavering. In the end, all 4 men were convicted. Scarface and the weasel-faced man received long sentences for murder and smuggling. The other 2 received shorter terms for their lesser involvement. As they were led away in chains, Scarface turned and stared at Olivia with such hatred that Ryder instinctively moved to block her from view. But Olivia stepped around him, meeting the man's gaze steadily. "You killed my brother," she said clearly. "Now you will pay for it. I hope you rot in prison." Scarface spat at her feet, but the guards dragged him away before he could say anything in response. It was over. The threat that had hung over Olivia for months was finally, truly ended. They rode back to Hachita in companionable silence, both processing what had happened. When the ranch came into view, Olivia turned to Ryder with a smile that outshone the winter sun. "I am free," she said wonderingly. "Really, truly free." "Yes, you are." He reached over and took her hand. "So what do you want to do with that freedom?" "Marry you," she said immediately. "As soon as Father Domingo will allow it. I do not want to wait anymore. I want to start our life together properly." Ryder's heart soared. "Are you sure?" "I have never been more sure of anything in my life." They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Hachita. The entire town turned out for the ceremony, curious about the mysterious woman who had captured the heart of the quiet rancher who lived outside of town. Olivia wore a simple white dress that had belonged to Ryder's mother, altered to fit her perfectly, and carried a bouquet of winter wildflowers. Ryder wore his best suit, his hair neatly trimmed, his hands shaking slightly as he slid the gold ring onto her finger. When Father Domingo pronounced them husband and wife and told Ryder he could kiss his bride, Olivia threw her arms around his neck and kissed him with such enthusiasm that the assembled crowd burst into laughter and applause. They emerged from the church into bright January sunshine, and as they climbed into the wagon to head home, Olivia leaned against Ryder's shoulder with a contented sigh. "I love you, Mrs. Dalton," he said, testing out the name. "I love you too, Mr. Dalton." She tilted her face up for another kiss. "Take me home." Home. The word resonated through him with perfect rightness. Not his home or her home, but theirs. Together. Their wedding night was tender and sweet, full of nervous laughter and whispered discoveries. Ryder had never been with a woman before, and while Olivia did not speak of her past experiences, she guided him gently, patiently, until they moved together with instinctive harmony. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the bed, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her shoulder. "Are you happy?" he asked softly, deliriously. She pressed a kiss to his chest. "I never thought I could be this happy again. After everything that happened, after Owen died, I thought my life was over. I thought I would spend whatever time I had left just running and hiding. But then you found me under your porch and everything changed. Best thing that ever happened to me, finding you there." She laughed. "I looked terrible, I smelled terrible, I was half dead from exhaustion. You were beautiful," he said seriously. "You are beautiful, inside and out, smooth talker." But she snuggled closer, pleased. They fell silent, listening to the wind whisper around the cabin, and Ryder felt a completeness he had never experienced before. This was what life was meant to be. Not grand adventures or fortune or fame, but this. A warm bed, a loving partner, and the promise of tomorrow. The months that followed were the happiest of Ryder's life. He and Olivia worked the ranch together as true partners, making decisions jointly, building their future brick by brick. The cattle herd grew. The horse breeding operation Olivia had suggested began to take shape, using her expertise and his land. They added a room onto the cabin, planning for the family they both wanted. Spring arrived in a riot of desert blooms, painting the landscape in unexpected colors. Olivia delighted in them, gathering bouquets to brighten the cabin, and Ryder took pleasure in her pleasure. Summer brought heat and hard work, long days in the sun that left them both exhausted but satisfied. They hired a hand to help with the increased workload, a young man named Pete who was eager to learn and grateful for steady employment. In August, Olivia told Ryder she was pregnant. He picked her up and spun her around, whooping with joy, only setting her down when she laughingly protested that he was making her dizzy. That night, they sat on the porch and made plans, arguing amiably over names and nursery arrangements and whether they were having a boy or a girl. "I think a boy," Olivia said, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. "He will have your stubbornness and my temper, poor child." "A girl," Ryder countered. "With your beauty and intelligence, she will run circles around both of us. Whoever they are, they will be loved, so very loved." "That they will be," Ryder agreed, pulling her close, "just like their mother." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Olivia continued working on the ranch until she grew too large to move comfortably, at which point she took over the household management and bookkeeping while Ryder and Pete handled the physical labor. She sewed tiny clothes and knitted blankets, preparing the nursery with meticulous care. In March of 1880, on a cool morning just after dawn, Olivia went into labor. The midwife from Hachita arrived quickly, a capable woman named Mrs. Henderson, who had delivered half the babies in the territory. She shooed Ryder out of the bedroom, telling him to make himself useful elsewhere, and he spent the next 12 hours pacing the main room like a caged animal, jumping at every sound from beyond the closed door. When he finally heard the cry of an infant, thin and lusty, he nearly broke down the door in his haste to get inside. Mrs. Henderson met him with a smile, a small bundle cradled in her arms. "You have a son, Mr. Dalton, a healthy, strong boy." Ryder took the baby with trembling hands, staring down at the tiny, red-faced creature who was squalling his displeasure at being thrust into the cold world. He had Olivia's dark hair and Ryder's nose, and was the most perfect thing Ryder had ever seen. "Olivia," he asked, suddenly terrified. "I am fine," his wife called from the bed, sounding exhausted but triumphant. "Bring him here so I can see him." Ryder carried the baby to her, settling both of them carefully onto the bed. Olivia took their son and gazed at him with such love that Ryder felt his throat tighten with emotion. She looked up at him, her eyes shining with tears. "What should we name him?" she asked. They had debated names for months without settling on one. But looking at his son, his wife, the family he had built from nothing, Ryder suddenly knew. "Owen," he said, "after your brother." So his memory lives on. Olivia's face crumpled and she began to cry in earnest, clutching the baby close. "Yes, yes, Owen, he would have loved that, he would have loved you. I wish I could have met him, he would have liked you." She wiped her eyes with her free hand. "You are both stubborn and overprotective and completely impossible when you think you are right about something." Sounds like he was a smart man. The smartest. She kissed the baby's forehead gently. "Welcome to the world, Owen Dalton. You are so very, very loved." Little Owen proved to be an easy baby, at least as babies went. He nursed well, slept in reasonable stretches, and only screamed when he had a genuine complaint. Ryder took to fatherhood with the same determined dedication he brought to everything else, learning to change diapers and soothe midnight crying Jags and rock the baby to sleep while singing off-key lullabies. Olivia recovered quickly from the birth, and within weeks was back to her normal activities, albeit with a baby strapped to her chest in a sling she had fashioned. She refused to be confined to the house, insisting she was a rancher's wife and would act like one. Ryder worried but knew better than to argue. His wife was nothing if not determined. Life settled into a new rhythm, structured around feeding times and nap schedules but no less full than before. The ranch continued to prosper. The horse breeding program Olivia had started produced its first foals that spring, beautiful animals with good bloodlines that sold for excellent prices. With the additional income, they were able to hire a second hand and purchase more land, expanding their operation. Owen grew from an infant to a toddler, a bright, curious child who followed his father everywhere and adored his mother with single-minded devotion. He took his first steps in the kitchen, lurching from Olivia to Ryder with a delighted shriek. He spoke his first word at 10 months, which was predictably "Mama," much to Olivia's delight and Ryder's good-natured chagrin. When Owen was 2, Olivia became pregnant again. This time, she was certain they were having a girl, and Ryder did not argue. Their daughter was born in the winter of 1882. Arriving during a rare snowstorm that blanketed the desert in white. They named her Rose, for the wild roses that grew near the creek on their property, and she was as different from Owen as could be imagined. Where he had been placid and easy, Rose was demanding and vocal, making her opinions known from the moment of birth. "She is going to be a handful," Mrs. Henderson predicted as she handed the squalling baby to Ryder. "She is perfect," he said, completely besotted. Olivia laughed from the bed. "Wait until she is 3 and terrorizing her brother. You might change your tune." But Ryder never did. He loved both his children with a ferocity that sometimes surprised him, and he loved his wife more with each passing year. She had become not just his partner but his best friend, the person he trusted above all others, the center around which his world revolved. They had their challenges, of course. There were lean years when drought threatened the cattle and they had to make difficult decisions. There were illnesses and injuries, the normal tribulations of frontier life. Owen broke his arm falling from a horse at age 5. Rose came down with scarlet fever at 3, terrifying them both until the fever finally broke and she recovered. But they faced everything together, supporting each other through the bad times and celebrating the good. The years passed. Owen grew into a serious, thoughtful boy who loved the ranch and everything about it. He followed Ryder constantly, learning everything his father could teach him about cattle and horses and the land. Rose was her mother's daughter, spirited and determined, with a gift for gentling even the wildest horses. She had Olivia's way with animals and Ryder's stubbornness, a combination that served her well. When Owen was 10 and Rose was 8, Olivia announced she was pregnant once more. This pregnancy was harder than the previous 2, leaving her exhausted and sick for months. Ryder worried constantly, but she waved off his concerns, insisting she was fine. Their third child, a boy they named James, was born healthy and strong in the spring of 1888. He had Ryder's red-brown hair and Olivia's green eyes, and his siblings immediately claimed him as their own, doting on him with protective fervor. The ranch thrived under their joint management. They had become successful enough to build a proper house, larger and more comfortable than the original cabin, though they kept the cabin as well. Using it for storage and as quarters for the hands they now employed year-round. The horse breeding program had gained a reputation throughout the territory for producing quality animals, and buyers came from as far as Texas and Arizona to purchase their stock. Ryder and Olivia became pillars of the community in Hatchita, respected for their hard work and generosity. They hosted barn raisings and contributed to the church and school. Olivia taught other ranch wives her techniques for training horses. Ryder served on the town council, helping to make decisions about infrastructure and growth. Their children attended the small school in town, rode home together in the wagon Ryder had built, and grew up secure in the knowledge that they were loved. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Ryder took Olivia back to the spot where he had first found her, beneath the porch of the old cabin. They stood there together, his arm around her waist, looking at the shadowed space where her life had changed. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "Staying here, building this life? Do you ever wonder what might have been if you had kept running?" Olivia turned to him with surprise. "Never. Not once. Ryder, you saved my life that day. Not just physically, though that too. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me love when I thought I would never feel it again. You gave me a home, a family, a purpose. How could I possibly regret any of that? I just want to make sure you are happy, that this is enough for you." "This is everything," she said fiercely. "You are everything. Our children, our ranch, our life together, it is more than I ever dreamed possible. I am so happy, Ryder. Happier than I have any right to be." "You have every right," he said, kissing her forehead. "You have earned this happiness 100 times over. So have you." She reached up and cupped his face in her hands. "Thank you for asking me to stay. Thank you for loving me when I was too broken to believe I could be loved. Thank you for being patient and kind and stubborn enough not to let me run. Thank you for giving me forever. I would do it all again in a heartbeat." He kissed her properly then, deep and long, and when they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "I love you, Olivia Dalton. Today, tomorrow, and every day after that. I love you too, Ryder Dalton, forever and always. They walked back to the house hand in hand, their children's laughter drifting out to greet them on the evening breeze. The sun was setting over the desert, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and gold, the same colors it had been the night Olivia had first agreed to stay. Ryder thought about that night, about the frightened, injured woman who had slept beneath his porch, and marveled at how far they had come. Life was good. Life was better than good. It was full and rich and meaningful, filled with love and laughter and hard work and shared dreams. This was what he had been searching for when he came to New Mexico all those years ago, though he had not known it at the time. Not just land or success or independence, but this. A partner to share it all with. A family to love and protect. A home in every sense of the word. As they reached the porch, Rose came running out to meet them, her dark braids flying behind her. "Mama, Papa, Owen says I cannot ride Lightning tomorrow, but I can, cannot I? I have been practicing just like you taught me." "We will discuss it at dinner," Olivia said, but her eyes were warm with amusement. "Where is your brother?" helping James with his rating. "He is being a show-off." Ryder laughed and scooped Rose up despite her protest that she was too old for such treatment. She squealed and wrapped her arms around his neck, and he carried her inside to where his sons waited. Olivia followed, her hand resting lightly on the small of his back, and as the door closed behind them, Ryder sent up a silent prayer of thanks. "Thank you for the day I found her sleeping under my porch. Thank you for giving me the words to convince her to stay. Thank you for this life, this love, this family. Thank you for everything." The years continued their steady march. Owen grew into a young man, tall and capable, taking on more and more responsibility at the ranch until he was essentially Ryder's partner in all but name. Rose remained as spirited as ever, developing into a skilled horsewoman whose reputation spread throughout the territory. Young men began calling at the house, much to Ryder's consternation and Olivia's amusement, though Rose showed little interest in any of them, declaring she had better things to do than waste time on silly boys. James, their youngest, turned out to have a gift for business that neither of his parents possessed. By the time he was 12, he was keeping the ranch books with meticulous accuracy and suggesting improvements to their operations that increased profits. Ryder and Olivia marveled at where he had gotten such talent, though they suspected Olivia's father might have been similar, based on her stories. When Owen turned 20, he shocked everyone by falling head over heels for a girl from town, the daughter of the general store owner. Her name was Sarah, and she was sweet-natured and practical, exactly the kind of woman who could handle life on a ranch. The wedding was held in the same church where Ryder and Olivia had married, and as Ryder watched his son pledge his life to his bride, he caught Olivia's eye and saw his own emotions reflected there. Pride, joy, and the bittersweet knowledge that time moved forward whether you were ready or not. Owen and Sarah built a house on the far edge of the property and began their own life together. Within a year, they had given Ryder and Olivia their first grandchild, a boy they named Ryder Owen, and the cycle of life continued its endless turn. Rose eventually did find a young man who captured her heart, a horse trader from Arizona who appreciated her skill and independence. They married when she was 22 and settled nearby, though Rose continued to work closely with the family ranch, training horses and managing that side of the business. James, to everyone's surprise, decided he wanted to pursue law, inspired by Sheriff Brennan, who had remained a friend of the family over the years. He left for school in Santa Fe when he was 18, though he promised to return and help manage the business side of the ranch once he completed his education. Ryder and Olivia sent him off with tears and pride, their youngest child setting out to make his own mark on the world. The house grew quieter with the children gone, but it was never empty. Grandchildren came to visit regularly, filling the rooms with noise and laughter. Owen and Sarah had 3 children in quick succession. Rose had 2, both daughters who inherited her love of horses. The ranch itself continued to thrive, now run jointly by Ryder, Owen, and Rose, with James providing legal and business consultation from Santa Fe. Ryder and Olivia, now in their 40s, settled into the comfortable rhythm of middle age. They still worked the ranch, though not as strenuously as before, leaving the hardest physical labor to younger backs. They traveled occasionally, taking the train to visit James in Santa Fe or attending horse shows throughout the Southwest, where their animals were entered. But they always returned to Hatchita, to the ranch that had been built on hope and determination and love. On a warm evening in the summer of 1898, Ryder and Olivia sat on the porch of their home, watching the sun set over land they had worked for 20 years. They were both gray now, Ryder's hair more silver than brown, Olivia's dark locks threaded through with white. Their hands bore the calluses and scars of decades of hard labor, their faces were lined by sun and wind, but their love had not diminished. If anything, it had grown deeper, richer, tempered by time and trial into something unbreakable. "You remember," Olivia said suddenly, "that day Sheriff Brennan came to the ranch, when those men were hunting me and you stood on the porch with your rifle, ready to fight them all alone." "I remember," Ryder said. "I was terrified, but there was no way I was letting them take you." "I knew then," she said. "I knew that I loved you even though I was too afraid to admit it. You were willing to die for me and we barely knew each other. I knew enough." He squeezed her hand gently. "I knew you were worth fighting for, worth living for. We have had a good life, have we not?" There was something wistful in her tone, the best life. He looked at her more closely. "What has brought this on? Are you feeling all right?" "I am fine," she assured him. "Just thinking about how lucky I am. How easily things could have gone differently. If you had not found me that morning, if you had turned me away, if I had refused to stay, where would I be now? Dead in the desert, probably, or still running, still alone. But you are not. You are here with me, and I am here with you, and we have children and grandchildren and a life we built together. That is what matters. I know." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I just wanted to say thank you for everything, for asking me to stay, for loving me even when I was difficult and scared, for giving me this family, this home, this beautiful life. Thank you, Ryder." "Thank you for saying yes," he replied. "Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being my partner in all things. Thank you for loving me right back." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and the first stars appeared. From inside the house, they could hear their grandchildren playing, their voices high and bright. Tomorrow, Owen and Sarah would take them home, and the house would be quiet again. But for tonight, it was full of life and love, exactly as it should be. "Forever," Olivia whispered. "You asked me to stay forever, and I did. And I would ask again every day for the rest of our lives. And I would say yes every single time." Ryder pulled her close, and they watched the stars emerge one by one, marking the passage of another day in a life well lived. The journey that had begun with a frightened woman sleeping under a porch had led to this, to a love that had endured and grown, to a family that stretched across generations, to a legacy built on courage and kindness and the simple decision to stay. It was more than enough. It was everything. The years rolled on, marked by births and deaths, joys and sorrows, the natural progression of life. Sheriff Brennan passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 75, and Ryder served as one of his pallbearers, honoring the man who had helped protect Olivia all those years ago. Father Domingo retired and was replaced by a younger priest, though the old man visited occasionally, delighting in seeing how the couple he had married had flourished. Ryder and Olivia grew older still, their bodies slower but their minds and hearts as sharp as ever. They celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary surrounded by their children, their spouses, and a swarm of grandchildren. Owen gave a speech praising his parents for the example they had set, for showing him what true partnership and love looked like. Rose, more emotional than usual, simply hugged them both and whispered that she hoped to love as deeply and as well as they had. James, now a successful lawyer and married himself, presented them with a framed deed. It took Ryder a moment to understand what he was looking at, and then his eyes widened. "You bought the old Sanderson place." The Sanderson ranch bordered their property to the north, and they had always wished they could afford to purchase it. "James, this must have cost a fortune." "Consider it an investment," James said with a smile. "Owen tells me the grazing land is excellent, and Rose says the creek that runs through it would be perfect for expanding the horse operation. Besides, it is not just from me. We all contributed. Think of it as a thank you for everything you have given us." Ryder looked at his children, his throat tight with emotion. "You have given me more than I could ever repay, all of you." "You gave us a home," Owen said. "A real home filled with love and security. You taught us what it means to work hard, to treat people fairly, to stand up for what is right. That is worth more than any amount of money." Olivia was crying openly now, and Ryder was not far behind. They held each other and their children, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still, holding them all in perfect joy. As they entered their 50s, Ryder and Olivia gradually handed over more of the daily ranch operations to Owen and Rose, though they remained involved in major decisions. They took more time for themselves, traveling to places they had always wanted to see, visiting James and his family in Santa Fe regularly, and simply enjoying each other's company. They had earned their rest, everyone agreed, though neither of them could imagine truly retiring. On their 30th anniversary, Ryder took Olivia back to the old cabin, which still stood despite years of weather and neglect. They had kept it maintained enough that it was habitable, though it was now used primarily for storage. The porch where Olivia had slept that fateful night still stood, the boards weathered and worn but sturdy. 30 years, Olivia marveled, standing on the very spot where Ryder had first found her. "It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago at the same time." "I remember exactly what I thought when I saw you," Ryder said. "I thought, someone needs help and I am going to give it. I had no idea I was looking at my future. If someone had told me that morning that I would spend the rest of my life here, that I would marry the man who found me and have his children and build something lasting and real, I would not have believed them." She turned to face him. "I was so broken, Ryder, so afraid and lost. I truly believed my life was over. And now I know that it was just beginning." She took his hands in hers. "You gave me back my life. You gave me hope and love and a reason to keep going. You gave me everything." "You gave me just as much," Ryder said. "This ranch was just land and cattle before you. You made it a home. You made me a family. You made me the man I am today." "We made each other," Olivia said. "That is what love does. It does not complete us as if we were somehow incomplete before. It challenges us to become better versions of ourselves, and you have made me better in every way." Ryder cupped her face in his hands, seeing the beautiful young woman she had been overlaid with the beautiful older woman she had become. The lines on her face were a map of their life together, every joy and sorrow etched there. Her eyes, though older, held the same fierce light they always had. "I love you," he said. "I loved you then, I love you now, I will love you always. And I love you," she replied. "Forever, just like I promised." They kissed beneath the porch where their story had begun, and it felt like coming full circle. From that desperate morning when she had slept there, broken and afraid, to this moment of peace and fulfillment, the journey had been extraordinary. And though they could not know it then, there were still many years ahead, many more moments to share, many more memories to make. But in that moment, standing where it had all begun, they felt the completeness of their love. It was not perfect, had never been perfect, but it was real and deep and true. It was built on choice and commitment, on the daily decision to love and honor each other. It was tested by time and trial and had emerged stronger for it. This was what it meant to find your person, your partner, your home. Not in grand gestures or fairy tale endings, but in the quiet accumulation of shared days, of problems solved together, of laughter and tears and the ordinary extraordinariness of life. They walked back to the main house hand in hand as the sun set behind them, painting the desert in shades of gold. Their children and grandchildren were waiting, gathered for the anniversary celebration. There would be food and music and stories told late into the night. There would be toasts and laughter and the comfortable chaos of a large family gathered together. But for now, in the fading light, there were just the two of them. The cowboy and the woman he had found sleeping under his porch. She had said she would leave, and he had asked her to stay forever. She had chosen to stay, and in that choice, both their lives had been transformed. It was a love story worthy of the Wild West, of that hard, beautiful land that had shaped them both. And like the land itself, their love endured, constant and unchanging even as everything around them shifted and grew. It was written in the lines on their faces, in the calluses on their hands, in the lives of their children and grandchildren. It was written in every sunrise they had watched together, every storm they had weathered, every challenge they had faced side by side. It was written in the very bones of the ranch they had built, in the soil they had worked, in the animals they had raised. Most of all, it was written in their hearts, where it would remain long after they were gone, a testament to the power of choosing love, of choosing to stay, of choosing each other. Forever. As they reached the house and stepped inside to the welcoming embrace of their family, Ryder looked back one last time at the desert stretching out behind them. Somewhere out there was the porch where he had found Olivia, the spot where his life had truly begun. He sent a silent prayer of gratitude to whatever force had guided her to his door that October morning so many years ago. Then he turned and followed his wife inside, into warmth and light and love, and closed the door on the past. The future awaited, and whatever it held, they would face it together, always together, forever.